To the Kansas Health Foundation's webinar on the Recognition Grants Program. My name is Sean Brown, and I'm a Program Officer here at the Foundation. And joining me today are my colleagues, Elisa Bullock, Grants Officer, and Jonathan Rivers, Associate Program Officer. I'd also like to acknowledge Adrian Payne-Andrews, who is a consultant to the Foundation and serves as the project coordinator for the Recognition Grants Program. The purpose of today's webinar is to provide an opportunity for potential applicants to hear directly from program staff about the Recognition Grant Program and to walk you through the online application process and answer any questions that you may have. To avoid feedback on the phone lines, all attendees are in listen-only mode, so all callers are muted. So to ask a question, please type it into the box on the right-hand side of your screen and hit submit. And we've allowed time after the presentation to respond to questions. Also, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the Foundation's website. Some of you may be very familiar with the Recognition Grant Program, but for those of you who are not, I'd like to provide just a little background on the Recognition Grant Program. It was developed in 1994 to provide an opportunity for nonprofit organizations to submit unsolicited requests that fit within the mission of the Foundation, which is to improve the health of all Kansans. And since 1994, the Foundation has funded a little over 1,500 grants totaling almost $20 million. Now these grants range from as little as $500 to the maximum amount, which is $25,000, with the average amount being around $13,000. The recognition grants, as you'll note, are funded at a maximum of $25,000 per calendar year per organization. And using a competitive process, the Foundation will award up to $2 million annually, and the application deadlines are March 15th and September 15th. Now, the Recognition Grant Program expands the Foundation's support to a broad range of health-related organizations throughout the state. And while the majority of the Foundation's funding is through invited proposals, the RG program is designed to respond to unsolicited requests, and it's targeted for organizations providing meaningful and charitable projects that fit within the Foundation's mission. Now, in addition to supporting projects, the Foundation also seeks to support initiatives that focus on promoting policy, systems, and environmental transformations that support health. Now, these PSE initiatives, as they're called, affect all aspects of health, including social factors that contribute to a healthy population may be considered. Now, funding may be used to support the following activities. It can be strategic communication, a communication plan if you're addressing a policy issue and you need to educate and mobilize the community. The funds could go to coalition building or data collection and non-lobbying advocacy actions as well. The idea isn't that these are funded in isolation, but as a part of an overall effort. Now, all of these may be included in your proposal, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in detail later, but first I'd like to illustrate the difference between projects, programs, and policy initiatives, all of which are acceptable. An example of a project might be you're requesting funds to, say, purchase a computer equipment to set up a computer lab. And then, for example, once you've accomplished that objective, that's done. With a program, you may be providing ongoing services to a community. So an example might be a program that mentors youth by matching them with adults that help to get them physically active, or by taking them golfing or playing tennis. With a policy initiative, you're looking at promoting or instituting comprehensive adaptive solutions at a broader level. So by effectively educating and mobilizing the public and educating government policymakers or advocating with organizational decision makers, a nonprofit can support policy systems and environmental change. So some examples of policy initiatives might be addressing smoke-free multi-unit housing. Your organization may educate apartment owners on the benefits of implementing smoke-free policies. Another example might be addressing sustainable development policies with business owners. Perhaps your organization's mission is to aid in the revitalization of say, for example, the downtown area in your community. So you may be convening business owners to collaborate on how to attract more customers to the area. So your policy initiatives may involve educating and convening business owners so that they can collectively educate government leaders on issues in the community. Or perhaps you're educating small business owners on the benefits of healthy lifestyles for employees, and you may assist them in looking at, what their policies are regarding vending or what types of food are being provided during the workday. So these examples are solely for illustrative purposes to demonstrate the possibilities of the types of grant proposals that are acceptable. So again, through supporting projects, programs, and policy initiatives, all of which are accessible, it helps us to achieve our mission. Now, to understand KHF's mission, it's helpful to know how we define health. We join with the World Health Organization in believing that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease and infirmity. So we at the Foundation could not meet this mission without a broad network of effective partnerships across the state. So we work closely with other health foundations, nonprofit groups, state agencies, hospitals, advisory groups to essentially develop programs and find answers to complex health issues. And we'll continue to form and strengthen those partnerships with more Kansas organizations and communities. So we really value your partnership in helping us to achieve this mission. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Jonathan, to talk a little bit more about the conference.
Thank you, Sean. And again, good afternoon, everyone. As Sean mentioned, I want to share with you a little bit about our Recognition Grant Conference, as well as ineligible projects and the review process. In 2002, the Foundation began hosting a conference for Recognition Grant recipients. We wanted to provide an opportunity for Recognition Grant recipients to be able to connect with one another and then an opportunity for professional and personal development. With those goals in mind, a two-day convening was formulated with the intent of providing information and resources to support your efforts and allow you to connect with other nonprofits throughout the state. The RG Conference offers several skill-building workshops that range from an overview of strategic communication planning to volunteer management, from leadership, fundraising, and donor development to board development. These are just a few of the breakout sessions that are offered. In the past, we've had this conference every year, but that has changed. We anticipate holding this conference every other year, and the next conference will be held April 8th and 9th, 2015. We also anticipate inviting all applicants who apply in 2013 and 2014 to attend the 2015 conference. There will be more details regarding the 2015 conference as that date approaches. Because applicants from multiple years will be invited, we recommend registering early to give you the best possibility to attend the sessions you want. I hope if you are able to attend, you'll find the conference beneficial. Now, before discussing the review process, let's take some time to look at the nuts and bolts of the RG program. I want to draw your attention to the list of non-eligible projects. The full list, which can be found online, I would suggest you take a good look at, but I will also highlight a few select items. Medical research, direct mental health services, and direct medical services all fall under the purview of ineligibility, as well as construction projects or real estate acquisitions. Playgrounds, trails, playground equipment, video games and systems are also items that will not be supported or funded through the Recognition Grant Initiative. Finally, foundation funding cannot be used for lobbying on the introduction, enactment, or amendment of specific legislation and activities supporting candidates of a political campaign. Please take the time to go through the full list online to ensure your application does not include requests for ineligible projects. So what about the review process? Who looks at your grants and how do they make their decisions? Well, an independent review committee made up of candidates from all walks, regions, and fields of life evaluate the grant applications that we receive. These individuals are coaches, public health officials, teachers, and nonprofit executive directors. Individuals that have a broad knowledge of the field, have done the work, and recognize the challenges found within the nonprofit sector. What's more, they hail from many different areas of the state, providing a greater depth of knowledge for each of the geographic specific needs. There are many factors and questions that the Technical Review Committee consider when deciding which projects to fund. And with that information in mind, I will return the presentation back to Sean Brown to further discuss questions you should consider when making your grant request. Sean?
Regarding the Technical Review Committee, they look at the overall strengths and or weaknesses of the proposal and examine the feasibility and sustainability and the likelihood of success of what's being proposed. So some of the typical questions to consider as you're preparing your proposal are noted here, and you'll find a more comprehensive list on our website. So the first being, does this proposal address a significant community health problem that is defined in a clear and compelling way? So do you make your case with data? Do you outline why you're uniquely positioned to do the project or the program? For example, you may be an organization that's been doing after-school programs focusing on academics, but now you're branching into healthy behaviors and you want to focus on reducing obesity in elementary school children. So are you making a compelling case in terms of the data? For example, you may say 45% of the children in our school district are obese, so we surveyed parents, so 75% will consider exercise an exercise component and added value. So, you know, one of the things that we also look at is, does the applicant organization have the capacity to carry out the project's activities and to achieve the defined outcomes? So what the Technical Review Committee is looking at is does the organization demonstrate a history of carrying out this work over a period of time, or is this a new venture that you're looking to get into? They also look at what's the capacity of the staff. For example, with the after-school idea, the proposal may state that the director of the after-school program has a master's in PE and has worked in the community for 15 years in youth programming, and that they're well connected with parents and teachers and the school administration. Another thing that we look at is, does the lead agency have a history of working well with other organizations in the community to address health issues? Does the community have a history of cooperative and collaborative efforts in terms of among schools and health organizations and social service agencies? If funded, will the proposal increase the organization's capacity to do the work? If you're an organization that's been doing the same type of work for a number of years, you want to be able to demonstrate the types of outcomes that you've achieved. So if you've received grants from the foundation and you're requesting funding for, say, a third time, having the data to back up what your past performance has been will be very, very critical in making your case. Another thing I want to point out is that when you're preparing your proposal to avoid the trap of there being gaps in the proposal. Sometimes when you're intimately familiar with the work that you do, there may be the assumption that the reader knows how you're going to accomplish the work. So just consider it as if you're describing your work for the very first time to someone who doesn't know what you do. Another thing we look at are the outcomes of the project clear, measurable, and reasonable? For example, are you describing the number of people that you want to impact, and is that reasonable for the amount of dollars you're requesting? Are you describing, for example, the percentage change you want to see in terms of, say, for example, increasing physical activity by 20%? Looking at those types of numbers. Another question that we consider is the budget appropriate for the planned activities? We look at the budget. Are you asking $25,000 for a project that will impact 20 people, or to address the needs of 350 people? And is the total amount of the project being requested from the foundation, or are you going to be requesting funds and providing commitments from other sources as well? Also, we've modified a couple of questions in the application that I'd like to call your attention to. One being, if your proposal involves adult volunteers or paid staff to interact with minors, will you be performing background checks on those service providers? And if so, are you requesting all or a portion of those costs be funded by the grant? The other is if your proposal involves adults interacting with minors, have you provided a copy of your policy regarding your processes for engaging in hiring, training? Have you included that background check policy? So that's very important to make sure that you include that. And then the last question that I would like to call to your attention that we've modified is the one regarding, and it says, in the space provided, please include evidence of your organization's capacity to implement the proposed activities and achieve the anticipated results within the proposed time frame. And in addition, include quantitative data demonstrating your organization's achievement of objectives for similar projects. So again, if you'll note, that change to the application, that question is very important, as I mentioned before, in terms of making the case with data. And lastly, we look at how does the project rank when compared with other applications received during the funding cycle. It's a very competitive process, and so your proposal is not only being compared across the state of Kansas, but you're also being compared to other organizations that are doing the similar or the same work as you. So we're also taking into consideration, you know, in addition to who the strongest candidate is, are there demographics to be considered? Are we lacking proposals from a certain region of the state or certain counties? Is one reaching underserved populations? So there's a number of factors that are being considered through the review process. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Elisa, who will walk you through the application process.
Thank you, Sean. I'm going to first pull up our website where we have the information on the RG program as well as the link to complete the online proposal. So if you haven't been to our website before, it is www.kansashealth.org. So I'm going to pull up the home page right here. If you want to get to the RG page, if you go into the blue box on the right-hand side of the screen under Quick Links, you'll see the first link is Recognition Grant Information. So if I click on that link, it'll take me to the RG page. First, I want to mention that we will be offering another webinar next week on Wednesday, July 16th at 10 a.m. So if you would like to attend again or let others know that we'll be putting on a webinar, they can sign up using this link. And then after all of the webinars have taken place, we will place the recording on this page. So you can refer back to it at a later time if you need to. We also have more information on the guidelines, organizations that are eligible, those projects that are not eligible, as well as more detail on the review criteria that our independent review committee will be looking at when reviewing proposals. And then finally, a couple of bullets on the deadlines and restrictions. If I go to the very bottom of this page, you'll see two links for the online application. The first link, which I have kind of highlighted here that says Recognition Grant Application, that will be the link that you will click on the first time that you start the application. However, if you are working on your application, you've saved it, and you want to come back to it at a later time, you'll need to click on the link that says the sign-in page. And then also we have contact information for Sean Brown. So if you need to contact her regarding any programmatic questions, her information is there. And then if you have any technical questions regarding the online process, you can contact Gina Hess, and she's our grants associate. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the Recognition Grant Application. And once I click on that link, it's going to take me to a sign-in page where you will sign in with an email address and password. So if you've used our online system before, you'll just be able to enter your user information. However, if you've never applied for a grant with the foundation before, you'll need to click on the New Applicant link that's right under the email text box. So I'm just going to log in with my user account information and click the Login button. And the first page that you'll see is an eligibility quiz. And we just have a number of 3 questions that will ask you to complete. And this is just to make sure that you've read the guidelines and restrictions and that you understand whether or not your organization is eligible for a recognition grant. So I'm just going to click on all of those with a yes. At the very top of the page, you'll see that there are 7 different pages of the online application. The first page is just detailing information, again, about the program. This information is identical to the information on our website. We've just put this in front of you again because it's important that you've read and understand all of these details. Once I click the next button, it's going to take me to the applicant organization information page. And at the very top, you'll see that the submission deadline is Monday, September 15th, and all submissions must be in by 5 p.m. So once that 5 p.m. deadline hits, we're going to take the application offline. So please make sure you get your application submitted early, just in case if you run into any technical difficulties, we can help you out. I'm just going to scroll through this page. We'll ask you for your organization's name, your tax status, contact information, so address, email, and then we'll also ask you for who is the primary contact, who's the executive director of your organization. And that individual is going to be the person that is authorized to sign an agreement if your program is awarded. I'm going to click the next button, which will then take me to the project information and questionnaire page. Here's where we'll ask you for who is the project director and what is their contact information. Then we'll ask you what's the title of your project as well as a brief description of your project. And then what's the time frame? So when is it going to start and when is it going to end? And then we have 7 questions underneath the project questionnaire. And then please pay attention to the red text, which gives you a limit on the number of words that you can enter. And you can check on the word count at the very bottom of the text box. It'll let you know if you're getting close to the word limit. So again, there's 7 questions. I'll just scroll through those. And then the next page is going to be the budget and narrative page. So the very first question that we're going to ask you is, what is the overall cost of your project? So it's not just the amount that you're requesting from the foundation for the recognition grant. It could be, we want the overall budget of your project. So your project could cost $100,000. However, you're only going to ask for $25,000 from the foundation. So you'll enter that number here in the very top box. And then the next section is where we want to know what's the amount that you're going to be asking from the foundation for your recognition grant. So what we need you to do is to complete a project budget worksheet. And that project budget worksheet can be accessed at the very top right-hand corner of the application. There's a little button that says Project Budget Worksheet. And I'll open that up, and it's going to be an Excel document, and it's going to be outlined with different budget categories on the left-hand side of the page. And then we also have field on the right for the dollar amount. And we've built in a couple of formulas just to make sure that you have entered the limits that we have set for fringe benefits, which can be up to 25% of your salary, as well as we have a formula entered for indirect, which can be a maximum of 10% of your total grant request amount. So I'll just enter an example here. So if I'm asking for $10,000 for personnel, that means if I wanted to ask for fringe benefits, my fringe benefits could only be $2,500, which is 25%. So it's telling me I'm still meeting the criteria. However, if I were to enter a number over that amount, it's going to tell me that that amount's not allowed and I need to go back in and fix my fringe benefits amount. So I'll go back and fix that to $2,500. Now that's all I want to request. However, I do want to request indirect, which can be 10% of your total request amount, which can be found in the field right above, which is the $12,500. So 10% of that would be $1,250. So again, I'm still meeting my criteria, and my total request amount is going to be then $13,750. So once I've finished my project budget worksheet, I would go ahead and save it to my computer to a location that you'll be able to easily find it. And then what you'll need to do is once you've saved it to your computer is you'll upload it where it says project budget attachment. So you would browse for it, locate it on your computer. So I'm just going to upload a document that I have, an Excel document saved. I'll click the upload button, and you'll see that now my document has been uploaded. And then at the very next field that we're going to ask you is, again, to enter that amount that you're requesting for your grant, your potential project. So that's going to be that total amount that we had on that project budget worksheet. And so, again, that would be the $13,750 that I've just entered on my project budget worksheet. Then we have a couple of other questions related to your budget. And then finally, we have a budget narrative text box for you to complete. I'll click the next button, and it's going to take me to the project description page. And here we have 3 questions. And again, please notice the word limit. At the very bottom of this page, you'll see outlined in red with the check mark option. We need you to check that, and that's just telling us that you have read this box and understand that on the very last page that we'll get to here in just a moment, there's going to be a review and submit button. Now, once you hit that button, that does not mean that your application has been submitted to the foundation. What it is it's just going to take you to one last look at your application all on one page for you to review it. And then once it's ready to submit, you will hit the submit button. So that you know that your application has been submitted, you will receive an automated email from us letting you know, so you're reassured that we have received it. Once I click the next button, this is going to be the last page, and this is the attachments page. There's just a couple of attachments that we need you to upload, just like we have requested on that project budget worksheet. So the first document we need you to upload is either a list of your board of directors, board of regents, board of education, whatever is applicable to your organization. You'll need to upload that document. Then we'll need you to upload your IRS Form 990, depending on what type of organization you are. So if you're a government entity or a church, you will not need to upload this document. Next, we'll need you to upload an income statement, and that's only if your organization has annual gross receipts of $25,000 or less. And then if you're a church, we'll need you to upload your group ruling letter. So right below that, we have instructions again on how to upload your attachment, which was just like what we did with the project budget worksheet. So if I go to the very bottom of the page, we'll see the list of all of the documents that possibly could be required for you to upload. So if I were to select board of directors, again, we would just browse for that document on the computer. Click the upload button, and it will tell me my document has been uploaded, my board of directors. So once I'm done, here is that review and submit button I just mentioned. Once we click on that, it's going to take us to one single page of your entire application that has been completed. And in red, it'll let you know any errors that have occurred. So as you can see, I have a number of errors, but that's just because I didn't fill out the entire proposal. But if you do have errors, go ahead and fix those. And then once you would scroll to the very bottom of the application, you would have a submit button. I don't have that because I haven't fixed all my errors, but once you've fixed everything, you can hit that submit button. And again, once you hit your submit button, you'll get an automated email letting you know that we have received your proposal. And then just a couple other things I want to mention. If you're all of our announcements, so if you're awarded or you're not awarded, those will be sent on November 26th. And please make sure that all of the emails that you have entered on your application are working and that they're being checked on a regular basis, especially around this time. And we will be sending out agreements that need to be signed and returned. So if you are awarded, we'll need you to send those back pretty quickly because we're going to try to get funds sent out by the first 2 weeks of December. So please be checking your emails often as we will be sending out announcements towards the end of November. And with that, I think what we'll do is look at some of the questions that we've received, read those, and answer those. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in on the right-hand side of your screen. So one question we have is, are organizations who are not given grants also invited to the conference?
And yes, all applicants will be invited to the conference, so yes.
And then who picks up the tab or the bill for the conference?
And the conference is funded by us, PHS. So.
Another question we have is, can this particular grant be a yearly thing, or do some grants get renewed yearly?
In terms of the yearly, basically your grant can be for a year. It can go beyond a year. You're able to submit proposals each year. You can only receive funding. One organization can only receive funding once during the calendar year. But you are able, if you're not funded in one cycle, you are able to, say for example, if you're not funded in the spring cycle, you're able to apply again in the fall.
Another question we have is, what if a project does not have an end date?
Well, there is not, we don't have a specified time in which you have to spend the funds. I mean, you know, typically they may be on an annual basis. We do ask for the project date information, so the anticipated time that you think it would take for the project to be completed, you should include that in your proposal.
The next question is, what if I need to make changes after I submit the grant? Once it's submitted, there can't be any changes made, so that's why we have that review page. So make sure you review everything before you hit submit, because once it's submitted, that's it. Another question we have is, can grant funds be used for the purchase of a stove and a refrigerator to intake a community-wide summer food and supplemental cooking class for community members?
Yes, that type of equipment purchase would be eligible, so there's no problem there. Any other questions? If you have them, please feel free to type them in. One thing I would like to add, just in terms of when you do submit your budget in the Excel spreadsheet, to make sure that you do use the budget that is provided and not substitute and use a Word document or some other form. Please be sure to include that, because that will affect how your proposal is scored if you are not including the correct document. So just wanted to make that reminder. Any other questions? Well, if not, we certainly thank you for joining us for today's webinar, and have a good afternoon.